Welcome to Mornings with Matt, personal and professional development training that connects the art of acting with critical life skills and self-mastery. Presented by the Deering Acting Studio.
Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Mornings with Matt. Today, we are going to talk about focus and specifically 3 ways that you can enhance your focus, that you can starve the distractions in your life and feed your focus. So let's talk about the why here. The ability to focus is a foundational principle on everything that we teach. In order to listen, you must be focused. You have to be laser focused. You can ask my team around here. I get pretty obsessive about it. I even had, hey, can we switch over to Dakota so he can say hello real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Hey, Dakota, how you doing?
Hi, feeling good, man.
What was so one of Dakota's very first critiques that he had, because he started here just the other day. He went through our application process, and I was talking to him. And he let himself get distracted by another teammate, just even grabbing a bubble water. And I was like, dude, you got to stay focused. And he was like, oh, that's crazy. Like, so the idea to focus is, it is just essential for you to take your life to the next level. But this takes a lot of discipline. The discipline that it takes to be truly focused, next level focused, is incredible. You've probably, if you're a follower of the show, you might have heard some of these stats before, but I'm going to repeat them. It takes approximately, I think it's about 11 minutes for somebody to get into a state of focus. Once you're in focus, it takes another, I think it's about 7 minutes to get yourself into a state of what's called hyper-focus. That's when you are just like in the zone, that Michael Jordan, I'm in the zone phase of like, nothing can get in your way, and you just know you're doing what's right. I know we've all felt that before, and it feels really good, but it's hard to get there. Why is it hard to get there? The reason is because statistically, we are distracted once every 3 minutes. So think about this. To get into a state of hyper-focus takes 20 minutes, and yet we are distracted. We are pulled out of focus once every 3 minutes. So we're going to talk about 3 ways that you can starve out those distractions and you can feed your focus. Number 1 is going to be your expectations, schedule, routines. That's number 1. Number 2 is going to be your environment. And number 3 is your thoughts. But before we get there, let's talk about some other ideas of how this has been used in other professions and really, really the importance of it. So there's this thing called, many of you may have heard of this, the Sterile Cockpit rule. This is for pilots. And this came about because of an Eastern airline flight back in 1974, and it crashed. It was on arrival into Charlotte. And it's a very sad story. And what happened was this is something they've been looking at for a while, but they went and they researched the why. They were going through and listening to what was going on in the cockpit before the plane went down. And the pilots were focused on other conversations. They were focused on talking about politics and relationships and things that did not have to do with the operation of the aircraft. There was low visibility, but it wasn't so bad that they should have gone down. They just missed some critical moments because they were distracted, because they were too relaxed in a time when they needed to be hyper-focused. And that little bit of distraction cost a lot of people their lives. And so the FAA came out in 1981, and they enforced this idea of the sterile cockpit rule. Now, to show you how seriously they take it, the FAA, this is not like a polite suggestion. I mean, if you're caught not doing this, you'll get your pilot's license taken away. You will no longer be flying. This is absolutely mandatory that there is no distractions. This means pilots they're not on their cell phone. They're not scrolling. They're not checking their text messages while they're landing the aircraft. As a matter of fact, they're not even supposed to be doing that the entire flight. This is how important it is to stay focused. If we apply the same rule, let's just say to another profession, and this can be done like really across the board here, but let's go over to nursing really quick, because we sort of know about doctors. Doctors they're known for being sterile, right? The idea of like, we're going to wash our hands, then we're going to sterilize our hands, then we're going to sterilize the gloves, and we're going to sterilize the equipment, and everything is very precisely placed. If you go into an operating room, it's very specifically empty other than exactly what's needed. There's a huge big old spotlight, right, that goes whoosh, right down on the thing, the person, but the part of that person that they're going to be working on. Why? So that they can stay 100% focused on the job at hand. Well, they looked at some research of nurses and realized that there was a lot of error happening when it came to nurses giving medications and nurses doing blood work. And those errors were leading to further complications, deaths, costing the hospital a lot of money. And so they did some research on it. Well, one of the findings was that distractions were a huge cause for these mistakes. As a matter of fact, if a nurse was distracted while doing one of these tasks, they were twice as likely to make a mistake, 2 times. This is an incredible statistic. So one experiment they did, they had the nurses wear these brightly colored like lab coats or these garments, and if you had this on, like at first the nurses didn't want to do this. They're like, we don't want to be wearing this big old bright thing that we feel like a, I don't know, we just feel like we stand out or something. I just don't want to wear it. Well, what happened was, if you were wearing one of these vests, no one was allowed to talk to you, including the doctors, including the administrators, including your boss. It didn't matter. If I'm wearing the vest, you don't get to talk to me, because I have one job and one job only, and that is to deliver the right amount of medicine to this patient, and that is to collect the blood work in such a way that it's done appropriately, it's tagged to the right patient, everything is in order. Well, when they did this, the mistakes went down dramatically. This amazing thing happened, and immediately we started saving more lives. So if you take this concept, this principle of the sterile cockpit principle, we've now applied it to nursing. Just think about how you could apply this to law enforcement, firefighting, your workplace, right? Be honest with yourself. Even my people here, okay? Joey, let's kick over to you real quick.
Perfect.
How many times, Joey, are you laser focused? And then how many times, honestly, do you have other things on your mind?
Probably like 70-30.
Which way is the 70?
The not laser focused.
Not laser focused is 70.
Yeah.
Perfect. So when you're laser focused, what's the difference?
When I'm laser focused, probably, I don't know, just time moves faster, it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
So you are getting more done, but it also doesn't feel like as much of a drag. It's more of like a fluid motion forward.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
so what's interesting in what Joey said here, and it's so true, these are more statistics actually, is when somebody gets distracted, when they're distracted in their day, it causes anxiety, it causes depression, it causes fear. And I know I feel it 100%. When I'm distracted in a day and I'm not focused on the right things, at the end of the day, I feel anxious. Why? Because I didn't get everything done maybe I wanted to get done, or I didn't get it done at as high of a level as I could have. So those distractions cost me not only my work, they cost me in my potential promotions, they cost me in my potential gigs or my potential clients I might land, and they cost me in my mental health. That's what distractions cost us. So what's interesting is we don't associate a cost to distraction, but we must start associating distraction with cost, and it costs us a certain amount of whatever. So I'm not saying, Joey and I had this discussion just the other day. It was funny. We were talking about video games. I got nothing against video games. Joey likes to play video games. Awesome. It's all good. The only thing you have to do is you have to be honest with yourself, whatever your distraction is. For my wife, it'd be scrolling on Instagram. For me, for a while there, it was, I talked about this a lot. It was me obsessing over analytics numbers and just staring at certain things that I've been told many times aren't going to change for 6 months, and you can't stare at them because they're going to go up and down. But I would stare at them, right? We all have these things that we kind of want to go. It's our go-to when we're feeling a certain way, right? So here's the deal. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with video games. Video games are great. I'm all about video games. The truth, though, is that you need to understand what video games do to your brain. You have to understand what video games do to your day, the distraction, and then you have to calculate in the distraction cost. And then you have to decide in that day, in that moment, is the cost worth the result? And sometimes the answer is yes. Sometimes it's like, hey, I've been working nonstop, and I just feel like I need a distraction break. I'm going to set a timer, and the cost of this distraction is worth it. Not only that, but the distraction is purposeful, it's planned, and therefore I believe the distraction is actually going to end up helping me. Cool. If that's not the case, though, then you've got to be very honest with yourself and go, you know what? The distraction was supposed to be 10 minutes. It turned into 20, or it turned into 2 hours. I thought the distraction was going to help me, but I came back and I had less energy. I came back and I was not as excited, not as full of life. Cool. That's okay too. You just got to write it down. You have to tell yourself that that's the case, and that way you can avoid that thing in the future during that particular circumstance. So there's nothing wrong with Instagram. There's nothing wrong with video games. These things are wonderful, wonderful tools. They bring us happiness and joy, and they ding all these things in our brain that make us feel good. But we cannot kid ourselves and understand that these companies legitimately have done research to figure out how to get us addicted. They do it on purpose. And you know what? They should. And does that sound evil? Yeah. But at the same time, they're a business. Like, what's the job of a business is to try to make more money, to try to grow, to try to expand. So they're doing what they can on their end, going, hey, how can we make our product so people like it even more, so people use it even more? So that's why they're doing the research. I don't think they're big, evil men sitting around a table going, how can we make the world addicted to our stuff? But they are doing research and thinking, man, I want people to keep using my product over and over and over again. So therefore, if you know that that's happening, what does that mean? That means that they are actively seeking ways to make you addicted to video games, to Instagram. The same way, honestly, a casino is going to want to make their product addicting. They want the machines to go bing, 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 and that sound brings people a certain amount of joy, and it sends off endorphins for people, and so they become addicted to gambling. Is there anything wrong with casinos? Absolutely not. It can be very fun. It can be awesome. But is there something wrong with addiction? 100%, and that can be dangerous to a family. It can be dangerous to somebody's life. The same thing with addictive drugs, with alcohol. I mean, it's all connected. And so when you realize the cost, the distraction cost in your life, then you can make decisions and you can start to get in control of that thing. And you can decide right now, for me, I'm going to decide to put myself in hyper focus. So this is number one. This is the number one way that you can consciously avoid distraction, that you can starve the distractions in your life in order to feed your focus. The number one thing is your environment. So you're going to clean the environment. You're going to create that sterile cockpit for yourself. You're going to create an environment that is just yours. My story is pretty out there now as far as my mornings are concerned. I like to get up very early. The reason for that is because I have 3 small children. I've got a wife. I have a bunch of people who work here with me. When I get up really early, it's my time. There's nobody around. And by the way, the distractions are still there, and I still fail. But at least I have a little bit more control. So what I do is I try to create this environment. But that means my cell phone needs to be silenced, put away. I need to set the non-distractions on the computer. There's a way to do that where you push a button and nothing can come through on the computer. I don't want to see an email. I don't want to see any kind of a notification, because what happens when I do, I get out of that hyper state. And that distraction cost could cost me the writing an entire chapter that day in my book, or it could cost me, tomorrow's Mornings with Matt show. Like that one distraction can send me through a loop where then I'm off all day, and I feel the same thing as you guys. I feel distressed, I feel anxious, I feel depressed, and we want to try to get in control of that the best we can in our lives. Okay, so the number 2 way to overcome distraction is going to be your routine. So I talked about this a little bit this morning when it came to, I talked about this with my mornings. I get up pretty early and I have a very specific routine that I go through in the morning. 99% of the time right now, I'm on that routine. If I fall off, it's not good news. So the routine is something that I've become accustomed to, that I like, that I enjoy. It's just like everybody gets up, brushes their teeth pretty much. Like that is a habit that most of us share. Well, what other habits could you put into your life? What other things could you add and create to make it into a schedule and into more of a procedure? If we go back to being a pilot or flying an aircraft, let's say we're going to be at NASA or something, there's always a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's a procedure that happens. And when we go through all the steps of the procedure, then suddenly we're in a place where we know the outcomes, we have specific checks and balances, and when something gets off, we can go back and look at why it was off. I have a deep respect for engineers. I think the engineer mind is sort of a fun thing to study. And when you're an engineer, what are you looking for? You're looking for the steps that can make things easier, that can make things better. And you want to try to simplify things. And so you take complex ideas and try to simplify them down. Well, if you're not tracking your progress, and if you don't have some sort of a set routine where you can check off the boxes, then there's no way to know for sure what's off. But let's say in my routine, let's say I normally do A, B, C, D, E, and then I write. Okay, cool. So then I do that for a week, and boom, 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 and I'm making progress. Great. Then all of a sudden, boom, I don't write for a day. I don't write for a second day. I don't write for a third day. And then I'm going, wait a minute, what the heck is going on? I feel depressed, anxious, sad. Then I can look back on my days and I go, oh, dude, you've been missing C this whole time. Remember that thing when you said you actually exercise as a part of your routine, as a part of your morning? Well, you stop doing that and look at the result. Not good. Let's go back and add that in. Let's experiment for another week and see if we get back on track. Okay, great. Now let's say we did A, B, C, D, E, and we get to write, and then we're feeling like, I'm still feeling a little anxious, like I could use more time, or like I don't feel inspired, or blah, blah, blah. Great. Now go through your A, B, C, D, E and think to yourself, what could be changed? What could be enhanced? What could be taken out and something else put in? So this is always up for discussion. It's always up for you changing and making it better. But you want to think about, what is the procedure? What are the habits that I can put into place that are guaranteed that can help me put myself in a state of focus, in a state of hyper focus? I say help me instead of saying that guarantee, because my personal belief here is that this is a battle. It is a war. It's a war against distractions, and it's a never-ending war that you cannot win. I don't believe you can win the war. Meaning that they're always going to be there. Distractions are not going away. But this is a battle that we must choose to engage in every single day. It's a choice. You wake up in the morning, you go, nope, I'm not going to do that. Nope, I'm not going to do that. In fact, I'm going to do this instead. Which brings us to our number 3, the third actionable step to take to avoid distraction, to starve the distractions in your life and feed the focus. And the third step is going to be to control your thought life. But to control your thought life, you must focus on this idea of elimination. What is it in your life that you're bringing in, that you're soaking in? Who is it that you're putting yourself around constantly that is causing negative thoughts? And you need to eliminate those things. In order to create an example of this, what I'd like to do is have you think about your entire life as a series of photographs. So let me jump up here to Dakota. I'm going to put him back on the show since it's his like second day in the studio. What's up, buddy?
That was for you.
Thanks, man. What's up, Matt?
All right, so look at the camera when you talk to me. Hey.
Sorry about that.
Isn't he handsome? There's a reason we bring him on. He's just so handsome, you know.
Oh, jeez, thanks.
All right, so Dakota, think about this. All right, there's somebody walking by along the street, and they've got a cell phone in their hand, and the cell phone goes off, and it takes a picture, and you're in the frame someplace. The camera's not focused on anything. Sort of everything's in focus. You're in the frame somewhere. What do you visualize?
When someone just takes a picture of my life?
No, it's just a random moment.
Oh, random moment?
You're in a big city, like a huge city, like let's say New York. The hustle and bustle is going on, people moving everywhere. You're in the frame when this picture gets taken. So someone's walking by and it just psh, and everything's in focus. Where are you in the picture? What in your mind? Like where are you?
I'm kind of in the middle, like towards the center, and things are kind of happening like behind me.
Do you have to and think about this? You're just in the frame somewhere. Okay, you're somewhere in that frame. You probably got to find yourself. You probably got to look and be like, where am I? I'm in the crowd here somewhere, right? I'm a part of the noise. Mm-hmm. Now we take the same concept, right? And we say busy city, and we put you purposefully in front of a camera, purposefully in front of a great photographer who knows what they're doing. They put you right in the middle of their frame. They focus in on you. They blur out, they produce that bokeh effect, and they blur out everything else in that big city. So you get all you get the advantage of all the light and all the movement and whatnot, but it's blurred out completely. And we're laser focused on your eyes and your eyes only. Can you see the difference in those two photographs?
Yeah, definitely.
Right? We bring that to the surface and we go, okay, in your life, Dakota, you want to be the second photograph because we're focused on you. And right now, the number 2 photograph, that's your dreams, that's your goals, that's your aspirations, is that type of focus. When you let yourself go to photograph number 1, your goals are still there. They're in frame someplace. They might even be in the middle, but they're not important. You haven't made them so important that everything else dulls out. Now, understand this too. The idea of like everything dulling out, it doesn't mean that they went away. That's why I said that this battle is everlasting. So those distractions didn't go away. They're still there in the background. You've just blurred them so much that your goal, your dream is the only thing you can see. It's the only thing that's important to you. And you make sure that takes center stage. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. And if I can expand on that, that's an interesting concept, is zeroing in on yourself and your aspirations. 'Cause there's so many things in life that we don't tend to think of as distractions, but they are like some family things where like even if you want to bring that into it, like sometimes family will distract you, sometimes your friends will distract you, so it's really hard to zero yourself in and just have a space for yourself.
That's exactly right. I mean, think about this: the family, the friends, they're the same thing as video games. Like, they're great. There's nothing wrong with family and friends. Obviously, those are good things to have, but you need to understand their place in your life, or they can become distractions that actually hold you back. That's a really good way to look at it. Even think about the doctor or the nurse or the patient or somebody who's coming in who has a really vital thing to say to the nurse. That's a good thing. You know what? Not while I'm delivering medication, please. Like, you need to go to somebody else unless literally somebody's dying and I need to stop this completely and then come and take the vest off and come back and put it on. So let me ask you a pop quiz here, Dakota. Based on the show today, what could you do to help yourself when it comes to family and friends and overcoming that obstacle?
I think just letting them know and setting boundaries with them and being like, hey, I need this time for myself so that I can be productive and I can be and do the things that I need to do. Because even thinking about it now, if I were to kind of like be in my space and my family said, hey, can you do something? And I said, not now, I need to do this. I feel like sometimes they would be like, oh, well, fine. and like they would get a little upset about it.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm thinking about it now, and I feel like a lot of people do that, because when we as people kind of go and ask someone something, unless we're not trained to be like, oh, they're doing something right now, I can't disturb them, we kind of think it's all about us. And we tend to think, hey, I'm the most important thing right now. You need to do this thing that I need you to do, or you need to talk to me about this one thing. Where in reality, someone could be focused on something else and you're taking them out of that. Like I know earlier you were working on some stuff and Joey and I kept asking you questions. And they had some stuff to pertain to, but that's because it had stuff it had to pertain to. I didn't go up to you and ask you about the weather or something that didn't have anything to do with anything really.
That's right. And I was scrambling this morning for different reasons. I was actually putting some ideas together for different purposes, and you know, we're transitioning from one type of studio to another type of studio, so we're in a little bit of disarray, so we're dealing with that. But you're right. And you know what else though? Like, to hold you guys accountable, even the laughing, the giggling, the big loud, you know, those were absolutely distractions, and I had to zone you out. I had to blur out you guys and decide, I'm not going to say anything about it right now. I'm not going to bring attention to it. Hopefully that'd be something you'd learn in the future. And this comes back to walking into a room. I've talked about that before. But you walk into a room and you read it. If you see somebody's laser focused, I believe you have a responsibility to be their advocate, to be somebody that's going to help support that moment and go, dang, if that person's laser focused, how can I get laser focused on something else? How can I use that as a catalyst for me to better where I'm at? Not notice it, then keep making distracting noises and doing things that are going to potentially pull that person out of their hyper-focused state. So you're right. That's a really good note. I also liked what you said about family in general and setting these, like telling them that you're doing certain things and noticing that they're probably going to have a reaction. That's really astute. Now, there's a way out of that as well. Okay, so if I had a question for a nurse and someone said you cannot talk to the nurse, I would have a reaction. I'd be like, why? Why is the nurse so great? Why is the nurse so important? You know. But what's the key there? The key is the beginning of my question starts with why. So I believe you can actually avoid the pain when it comes to your family and your friends and whatnot if you actually just explain the why, and don't just say like, hey, I can't be distracted right now. But you need to say, and you can set these parameters, the boundaries. You can say, all right, so just FYI, between 2 and 4 p.m. or whatever time it is, between 6 and 8 a.m., I am in hyper-focused state. I'm going to try to put myself in a hyper-focused state. Therefore, my phone will be on complete silence. Other than if you call twice, it'll come through for an emergency. All notifications will be off. I am going to ignore you and everybody else for 2 hours. If you need to get a hold of me somehow, some way, this is the way to do it. You call me twice. If you call me twice, you're telling me that whatever you have to tell me is worth sacrificing my goals and dreams in this moment. And people will respect that, and they will interrupt you when it's super important. I want to be pulled out of hyperfocus if one of my kids is in danger. I don't care about my hyperfocus anymore, right? But if there's something going on where this is a question I could answer later, or it's just something smaller, I'd rather zero distraction. This is why when I teach, like the classroom, and right now, my cell phone's not in here. I get caught sometimes accidentally because my watch can be on. I don't think it is right now, but sometimes I forget to hit the do not disturb on there. Because this can ring and I forget about that, but I need to watch for my timing. But the idea being, you want to take away all the distractions. You want to pull yourself away from anything that could distract you from this most important thing that's going on in your life right now. Yes, Dakota.
Yeah, and I wanted to expand on that you need to really surround yourself with people who will respect that, because I know that there are people, probably even in my life, that would kind of not really respect that. And you really, really have to dig deep into your friend life, into your home life, into your family life, and just find the people that will respect those boundaries that you set. Yeah. Because it's so important.
And give them all a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Because you might be surprised by who would back you if they just understood the why. If you and some people need to be described the why in different ways. So maybe not everybody relates to this idea of, hey, if you do this, you're going to impact my goals and dreams. And they're like, right? But you could just say, hey, I'm actually trying to do this thing, and this thing's important to me, and I'm worried that if I get pulled out of my focus that I'm not going to get this and this done. And if I get it done, then at 4 p.m. at that exact time, I want to call you, and I literally want to be distracted. So I want to play the video game, or I want to do the thing, whatever the distracting thing is. But to do that and do that well and not be distracted from you, because that's the thing. Here's what happens. Most of the time when people hang out with each other, they're thinking about work. And when they're working, they're thinking about hanging out with the people they want to hang out with. So you're not, the same rules apply when you're hanging out with family, when you are engaged in friendships and in certain activities. That should be all you care about.
Yeah,
and like, it bothers me if I'm hanging out with a friend and they're texting and doing all kinds of different things, and I'm like, dude, why am I not important? If I'm not important to you, why should I make you important to me? I'm out.
Yeah, and I'm super blessed that I have friends who do respect that. Like, I have friends all across the U.S., and we all hang out and play video games sometimes. We use Discord, and we just chat to each other and play video games together. And I know that at any given moment, if I'm like, hey, I got to go work on something, they're like, go, great, do it, awesome. And I'm super blessed for that, and it's really good. And everyone needs to be like that in your life.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that they can respect that boundary, because when you need to get stuff done and you need to work on things, you can't be distracted because you're not giving it 100% of your attention.
And you don't know what impact you could have, Dakota. I mean, you might take that same group of friends, and there could be, you could instill a new rule. If you guys are really tight and they're open to things, and you could maybe even show them this show, and this could be a great idea. Before we're allowed to do any of that, we start with, we're just going to talk. And when we talk, we're going to talk about the distractions in our lives, our goals, like some things that are going well, that aren't going well. Then all of a sudden, your group of friends becomes this accountability, like, network. And people get to say, all right, so what are your goals for next week? Like, what are the things, and what are you going to do? And then this would be a really fun thing. When you go to check in the next time for video games, if somebody hasn't done the thing they said they were going to do, they don't get to play. So they get to come on, they get to announce that they didn't do it, and then they get to sign off and go do it. I mean, that would be the most powerful group of friends that you could possibly have. And here you have this, like, reward attached to, like, doing something. You get the reward of saying I did it, and getting a bunch of people to applaud you, or you get people that are going to hold you accountable to a super high level, all the way to the point that they're going to sacrifice their own enjoyment because they enjoy hanging out with you, but they're going to say, sorry, man, you screwed up my enjoyment because I wanted to hang out with you, but I don't get to because you had to do your work.
Yeah, and they do, some of them do that. We're all artists too. I have a couple writer friends, a couple friends who do paints and sketches, and sometimes they will do that. They will say, hey, I can't hang out tonight. I have to get this painting done, or I have to write this chapter in the book I'm writing.
But do you understand the difference between sometimes and this is the way that it is?
Yeah, 100%.
So I'm saying bring this up. Bring it up as an idea, because they might be like, dude, great idea. Let's do that. Because who does, like, if people, anybody who's trying to take their life next level understands the power of this mastermind group. And you can say, like, we're going to turn our video game playing group into a mastermind group that is going to help us all go next level and connect and get to do something we love together. That would be, I mean, it'd be an incredible thing. And it takes, all of a sudden, it takes the guesswork out of you maybe playing today or maybe not, maybe deciding to be disciplined, maybe not. And like, hey, according to our group rules, I don't get to participate unless I've been going 10x in my life, unless I've been passionately attacking everything in my life.
Yeah, and I think that would be a fun thing to incorporate, actually, because they do have things that they aspire to do, or they want to do, like they want to finish these projects, and I think it would be pretty fun.
It'd be amazing, and then you get to be the person that did that brought that into the group, that enhanced the entire group because of this little rule. You know, yeah. I mean, it's super fun. All right, thanks for joining, Dakota. Good work, my man.
Yeah, thank you, man.
I'd like to throw a few quotes out there as we wrap up today's show. George Lucas said, always remember your focus determines your reality. Always remember your focus determines your reality. How true is that? And it makes sense that quote comes from George Lucas, because it reminds me of that photograph. It reminds me of what's in the lens. Your focus becomes your reality. So if your focus is just sort of a picture from the hip and you happen to be in the frame, okay, fine. Like you're moving toward your goals, but you're also very distracted, and a distracted, anxious, loud, noisy life is what happens for you. If you're laser focused on just like, this is my goal, this is my dream, and you are so laser focused on that one thing, then your reality becomes very different and it becomes very fun. So George Lucas says, always remember your focus determines your reality. Another great quote here by Kurt Vonnegut. He is an American writer. He says, the secret to success in any human endeavor is total concentration. The secret to success in any human endeavor is total concentration. You cannot be totally concentrated on something unless you have eliminated the distractions for that moment. So start to get honest with yourself. Hold yourself accountable to the idea of, was I totally concentrated? Was I 100% focused, or was there anything else on my mind? Anything. And if something else is on your mind, then you got to go backwards like a scientist, like an engineer, and figure out, where did that negativity come from? Where did that distraction come from? And it might be the news. It might be your social media feed. It might be a video game. It might be whatever. And then go, cool. Now I know I have to eliminate this thing from my life, at least for a time, in order to get myself into this hyper state of focus. Then I can decide how and when to bring it back in such a way that is safe and beneficial for me. All right, so that is our show today. I'm going to just do a quick little recap here. There are 3 ways that we talked about today. 3 ways to starve the distractions in your life and feed your focus. Number 1, we talked about your environment, creating your environment. That was the Sterile Cockpit idea. Number 2 is your schedule, your habits, creating a very specific schedule and habits that are going to benefit you. And number 3 is your thought life. You've got to protect those thoughts. Then go backwards, figure out how you can continually make adjustments, continually adjust the sails of your ship to make sure that you're heading in a direction that makes you happy. All right, thank you so much for watching today. This has been Mornings with Matt. Sure appreciate everybody tuning in. Please do not forget to like and subscribe to this channel. It means a whole lot to us. God bless.
Thanks for listening to Mornings with Matt. Please like, subscribe, and follow us at Deering Acting Studio to keep up with the latest content. For more information on classes, private lessons, or professional development coaching, visit www.deeringstudio.com.